Hello and welcome to episode number 321 of the Armin Show podcast. We are in person, it is live. This is the action we can bring to life. On this episode, before I get into it, I want to mention subscribe, leave a review, rate on Apple, wherever it might be, any of those things. How about the show? We've gotten a 3, 2, 1. We started at 1. How does it go? Amazingly. On this episode, I have a guest here. By the way, color all over the place. We have Emanuelle C. Wright,
also known as Yungcameltoe. We're gonna go by Yungcameltoe today.
He's got his moniker, he's got his name, and he labeled as entrepreneur, comedian, and we'll be talking about philosophy and a variety of life concepts. Now,
before we start this interview, I just want to say, or this podcast, I want to say, hey, we love the fact that we exist at the same time as you exist, okay? If you existing right now, you listening to this message, man, thank you for being here.
That's a nice message to all the people, and we are glad to have the people. It's like an intricate network that we're all part of at the same moment, and then 30 years later, there's a different intricate network of all the people on the planet. That's a great point, actually, that brings up.
Facts.
Now, Emanuelle, you are a representative of many items. I took note when I met Emanuelle that we had some similarities and they're not common. And when I see that, I always pay attention because it's a small percentage of people that share some of my traits, maybe a social nature, maybe a understanding of the bigger picture of reality. So before I would describe anything, Emanuelle, how would you describe your general view of yourself as it relates to life?
I would say I was put on this earth to bring peace, love, happiness, and joy, man. So anything I'm about is gonna be fun. You know what I mean? I'm razzle dazzle. I like bling. You know, I got 2 rollies on. They iced out. Yungcameltoe. You know, I got the 3 Gengars because my spirit animal is Gengar. It's my favorite Pokemon. So I would say really, it's about having fun, man. We came here to have a good time. We came here to evolve, to, you know, get to the upper echelons on, you know, the spiritual path or whatever path you believe in. But yeah, man, that's me.
Now, I can sense a bigger picture understanding. To go more into that, immediately when we started talking, I could see that he was not overtaken by the life concepts that people tend to focus on, the standard operating procedures, the do this thing, get this thing done, this thing is a process. They seem a little bit, I don't want to say redundant, but there are larger ideas that guide what happens in that sphere that I'm talking about to be a little bit abstract. From what early age in life did you notice that you were viewing things a little more abstractly or bigger picture than the people around you?
My mom took me to see, it wasn't really a psychiatrist, it was just, you know, a nice lady who asked me questions. And we were watching 101 Dalmatians, and all the kids in the room was crying about the Dalmatians, and meanwhile I was clapping for Corella. So I think that was the first moment where I just realized that it's bigger than whatever message they're trying to sell you. They're trying to sell you a message for a reason. You got to read between the lines. Like Cruella de Vil. I mean, you saw the new Disney flick, right? With Cruella. Oh, it was a great flick. But it basically showed why Cruella de Vil became Cruella de Vil and like her life philosophies and her ways of going about life. And I'm not trying to say she's the best person, but there's a lot of lessons to learn from Cruella. And I think life is all about learning lessons. So I'm like, okay, cool. So we got 3 Dalmatians. Now they lost their fur. Okay, cool. There's a billion Dalmatians out there. I mean, I'm not trying to downplay it. I was just like, man, Corella's out here actually grinding and showing you how to run a business, how to get people to do things, she was teaching lessons.
It's a valid point here. The things you just presented, getting people maybe on your page for a bigger vision is not what most are thinking, because maybe they're thinking to follow guidelines that somebody is setting. But if you have that internal feeling that you want to be someone that expresses onto the world and causes things to occur and brings people together, it may look to some like, oh, you're making a real statement as a person, but we need individuals to set up like as a pyramid, managing groups of people. If we don't do that, what will get done? Who will have a vision? You can't just have people following everybody, then there would be no leader at that point. Now, that's from Cruella. Shout outs to Disney also, sending messages always at a baseline level to all people.
Man, Walt Disney was a genius, man. There's so many cryptic messages all throughout Disney. It's crazy. When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart's desire will come to you. Man, he just threw out the whole game right there, man. He just gave you the whole system right there. But nobody want to listen.
Having a vision is an amazing thing, and it's important to listen. Some might not hear. I could say certain words to one person and another person. One person might hear what I'm saying, and the other person, it might sound like I just said a generic phrase. It'll pass by, nothing translated. And even if I kept trying, I wouldn't be able to translate it because they weren't there to pick up my message. Messaging is very important. I like the concept of Disney, these intelligent individuals over time. There's so few. We think there's so many, but actually, if we started naming people or naming the individuals who make differences, it's handfuls or, hundreds or tens or 20s. There's not that many. Now, we'll put that aside. Back to Emanuelle. You have multiple categories here. How would you describe your categories of influence or effect, like the ones I described earlier? The things that you do.
I would say my approach is more of I'll say my approach is more of a mushrooms approach. If you've ever experienced mushrooms, then that's kind of how I come at you, you know what I mean? It's really visual, really fun, a lot of enthusiasm, passion, you know what I mean? A lot of jokes, a lot of laughter, I'm all about laughter. I think laughter is the best medicine. So yeah, I like to just bring that fun. I do stand-up comedy, I rap, I trade crypto and stocks, and I have some other things going on. I don't really want to talk about it on the podcast, but multiple streams of incomes, and but laughter's key though, man. Laughter's key.
Few points come up there. Now you say laughter's key. I know you mentioned that you like making people laugh. You like that feeling. I've done a little bit of open mic comedy and a little bit of my category that. Why do you like it? How would you describe your comedy? And how necessary is comedy in society?
Man, comedy is the most important thing to society. I mean, that's how people actually learn. I mean, people don't learn that's how the masses learn. I mean, intellectual people, they learn by reading and thinking, but the ones who can't do that, they learn through jokes and laughter. So I think it's very important. People say my style of comedy is a mixture between Hannibal Buress and Dave Chappelle. So I get that with a touch of Patrice O'Neal. People say you have a little Patrice in you. So shout out to the GOAT. Patrice. That's one of my favorites. But yeah, man, comedy. I suggest everybody at least try comedy once. Just get on stage for 3 minutes and talk about your day. You don't have to write anything. Just talk about whatever you want to talk about. You don't even have to be funny. Just get on stage and feel the presence of all those eyes on your forehead. And, it's going to give you a certain feeling. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of people, they're going to feel that feeling. They're going to be like, wow, I love this. And, there's going to be others who don't love it. But there's some people out there who, they don't even know, that could be your passion. Just get on stage. Try it out.
That's a great point. A couple of times I have gotten people who don't even do comedy to come up on stage and do it. And that was an experience they talked about for a while. They loved it and they didn't do it again, but it definitely changed their thinking of themselves. Then they didn't see it as so fearful. Maybe they took more risks later on that I didn't know about because of that. So if you do try something once, that can be good. It doesn't have to be a lifetime of that. But if you give it a shot, you'll see, okay, I didn't like it because of this. Or I did like it because of this. Or people saw me in this way. You can't get that feedback until you actually get that feedback. It's very important to put yourself in positions to get feedback, which is another concept actually that is important I want to bring up. I do that quite a bit socially. Similar socially, we have right here, Emanuelle in the building. social as myself, how long have you been publicly social, and do you like bringing people together? Is it about getting people outside of their comfort zone? What comes to mind when you're social?
I like finding the truth. So when I'm out socializing, I'm looking for gems. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to bless others with knowledge as well. So I want it to be, a two-way street. But I like what was it, Plato or Socrates, who used to just have his friends come over and they would eat and they would just discuss philosophies and they would have discourse, and that's how we learn, and that's how we evolve in our process of thinking. So I like to have philosophical discourse in public places. Like one of my favorite places is the Bungalow in Santa Monica. I went there last night, and I always talk to people. I'm like, hey, what's your life philosophy? They're like, oh my gosh, like he's not trying to sleep with me. He's just asking me what my life philosophy is. And it's like, now we have a philosophical discourse, and other people come in and they give their 2 cents. So I've always liked doing things like that. But I don't really bring too many people together. I like that happen naturally. So I like to just go out with, a couple of friends and find other like-minded individuals in that space and, talk from there.
Great point you bring up, by the way. The finding of truth, that's the same thing mentioned by Ricardo Lopez, the podcaster in Portugal. The reason he talks to, let's say, scientists and authors on his show is fully to find out the truth. So I noticed a common theme between individuals who are trying, reaching out, taking risks. It doesn't always work out, is because there's truth underneath there, and you can see bits of reality that would have been hidden to you beforehand, kind of like Robin Hanson would say, the hidden realities under life. Same thing, this truth is there, but if you don't, let's say, dig, it won't be brought to you. It'll still be there, but you won't connect with it in that way. That's a cool feature.
The Buddha said to chase after knowledge as if your hair was on fire and knowledge was water. Man, say less.
You have to go right at it. That's a great point. I like that. There's a passion to it. And once you start doing it and you figure out this thing, or somebody says something and you have a realization, you might get annoyed for 2 days, 5 days, like, oh, I didn't know this for years and this was happening in the background. But soon enough, it's part of your repertoire. And now,
now you're better.
You're better at
what
that
did
point.
Joker say? What doesn't kill you only makes you stranger. Well, I say, what you don't know is going to hurt you, man. So try and know everything, okay?
That's true.
Because there's so many countless times I'm like, man, I didn't know that. And I look back like, bruh, the year 2017, I could have been a such better individual if I would have known this fact. And I'm like, well, there you go.
It does actually impact you. That's actually what he said is the minority view, because I think the average individual will think that what doesn't hurt you, well, that's it's out of your sight, so it's not relevant. It still impacts you. The things you don't know will impact you. You can have a little blockage on your eyes to not see it, but the impact will still occur. On the other hand, if you reach for it, maybe 2 years later, boom, versus 12 years later, and then you didn't lose that decade for no reason, which you'd never know. It's like a sad unknowing that you'd never know. Concepts right here, concepts all day. Now, so that's comedy. And then what about entrepreneur category? How would you describe in that one?
Crypto and stocks, man. If you're not in the crypto and stock market, if you're not in crypto, I don't know what you're doing. But the stock market is good as well, So I bought all my investments in myself, my music, my comedy, my cryptos, and my stocks. I don't do real estate. I like to do things without a middleman. So if I don't need a middleman or a broker or the government to sign off on some agreements, then you know what, we're good. But once it starts getting into 100 documents of paperwork, I'm out. I just don't got time for it, because time is your best value right there. So anything that's taking up too much time, I don't care about. If you're gonna give me $1 billion, I want my time.
I have mentioned this. I like this concept. We have similarities here. The concept of cutting out the middleman. I used to tell that to people I meet in public, that some of them would meet through an online program, and I would be meeting them in person and supporting the theme that you exist. We're already here. The middleman, I don't really support going through multiple layers that are not necessary. Some of them have gotten popular, but were they really necessary? Hard to say.
It's kind of like when you look up a plane flight on Kayak, and they give you all the best tickets. Don't buy it from Kayak. Go to the airline, because Kayak is upping their price. So cut the middleman out.
Right. The more layers, the more room there is for inefficiency or absorption of what you have.
Don't buy from Amazon. Buy from Alibaba. That's where it's coming from.
Inside information. That's good stuff. Now, let's switch to the concept of philosophy. One thing you mentioned that was very important that I wanted to start with is you had said that philosophy in a way saved you or brought you a real solution, we'll call it. How would you say that philosophy had a real impact in making your life upslope, let's say?
Well, I came from a very religious family and from the Christian religion, and I don't really ascribe to that religion. I believe in God. I believe in a higher power. I'm spiritual. But man, the King James verse, can I throw that out, please? Because look, that the Bible and all them other religious texts, they were manipulated. They were definitely manipulated, man. I like to look at religion like a game of telephone. This person told this person told this person for billions of years, and now we got whatever we got now. No, don't. That was manipulated, changed. Kings, princes, popes, they all changed, deleted certain parts. You got to go to the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Red Sea Scrolls, the Torah. Like, who's actually making sure these manuscripts are okay? So I've never ascribed to any of that. So I was really just looking for answers, So I just looked at philosophy, came across it. This kid was just reading Socrates. I'm like, what's that? He said, this is the Republic. I think that's Plato. I don't know. But I didn't read books at the time because I was a jock in high school, So I just looked up Cliff Notes, where they give you the quick summary of what books say. And I just went through a bunch of philosophical texts, Cliff Notes. It was just getting the bold print text, like this is what he was trying to say, this is what he meant. And I was just reading all that stuff, going on YouTube, listening to people talk about different philosophers. And then in college, I took some philosophical courses. I studied business, but I was always taking philosophy classes on the side too. So that's where it came from.
This is something. And then it saved you because...
Oh, it saved me because I'm still reckless, let's be honest, but I was even more reckless. Okay. Like I was, just doing getting in fights, and we had like an underground fight ring, and we was putting bets on it and things like that. So I was kind of running close to the law, you know what I mean? I had I've never been to jail, but I had a few close calls, but after I started reading philosophy, I calmed down and I started moving better, because I was like, well, there might be more than just, because life is told to us you're supposed to, be born, ascribe to whatever religion your mom tells you to. You go to school, you try and do good things for good people. You get married, you have 2 kids, you get a nice fence with a dog, you get fat, you watch the news, you care about it. And I was like, this is boring. This can't be life. If this is life, then let me tell you, I'm about to be a criminal because I'm out. But then I read some philosophy, specifically, what was his name? Nietzsche was good, but it's not Nietzsche. Albert Camus, and he was talking about like the myth of Sisyphus. He imagined Sisyphus to be happy, even though he has to roll the rock up the mountain. The rock keeps coming down. Sisyphus was happy because he chose to be. He made that choice. So I would say I'm a nihilist at heart. I don't really think much matters, but I'm a positive nihilist. Hey man, if this doesn't really matter, maybe. Like I understand how Pascal's wager works. You might as well believe in God. So I believe in God. I believe in all the gods. Because if I'm wrong, I'd rather be right than wrong. So all the gods out there, whoever is the right one, I believe you. Allah, Buddha, Santa Claus, I love you all. But basically, be positive in my nihilism, because I was reckless, and now I'm reckless, but I'm reckless with a smile on my face. I brush my teeth, I floss, you know what I mean. I'm a good man, whatever that means.
You have an upbeat demeanor.
Yeah.
That goes with it.
Yeah.
We share similar on that too. Nihilism is like a view that things don't really matter, let's say, and the internet, a lot of forums are packed with individuals who like this concept, but there's a pessimistic form of it that is prevalent, and then similar to how he is describing it, I have that view that maybe things are not so relevant, but then we can work from that with the upward trajectory, because then it means if things are not so serious, what can we do? What can be done with that?
Let's have fun, man. Let's take mushrooms and LSD and go to Mars and Venus. Like, come on. Let's elevate.
It's a variety.
For no reason. It doesn't matter, but let's still try and elevate.
There are some people, do you ever think about this concept? We are here, and we can move our arm, and then there's who knows how many people who lived before us, some great rulers and leaders and whatnot, who can no longer, right? So in comparison to them, we have more ability than some of the greatest leaders ever because they are no longer.
Oh yeah, right now I'm stronger than Genghis Khan could ever be. I mean, sure, Genghis Khan conquered nations, but I'm conquering hearts, you know what I mean? Conquering minds, you know what I mean? We're changing thought, you know what I mean? I can't be better than Socrates or Plato because they changed. I mean, that's the foundation, but it's technology and just the way the world works now makes everybody more powerful than some of the strongest kings back in the day. Because we don't care about brute force. It's about, intellectualism and coming together as a group and elevating and changing minds and making hearts strong. So I think that's what it's more about.
I like the comparison you did there because Genghis Khan is known for that brute force and just stepping on and conquering, but how much can you take from that as a person today other than the stories of this happened? Whereas the other individuals mentioned there, their thoughts can connect with our thoughts today to do something, to get something done. There's more applicability when you go bigger picture. There is far less when it's something like, I drove the car from here to there. What am I supposed to take from that? What can I take from that information? Not too much. A lot of technology things are at the baseline, like, the self-driving car goes from here to there. But the bigger picture, it's like, how will society function? Do we even need this thing for people to learn how to do it? Can it be done by machines so we can focus on something else? There's always like a bigger picture way to go. Now, as far as people go, bigger picture individuals or people you look to, are there some people you look to as representations of a way to go, or thoughtful people currently that are notable figures?
I would say one of the greatest New Age philosophers who actually became big enough to spread his philosophy and actually have the people who matter to listen, which are the young kids, the ones who are going to replace us. You capture the youth, you got to capture the youth. There's a guy called XXXTentacion. He recently passed away, RIP, man. But towards the end of his life, he really started to understand philosophical concepts, and he started to put it inside of his music. And he was teaching the young, man. I think the government, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think the reason XX was killed was because he was really just telling the masses some real stuff, and you can't really have the masses thinking for themselves because the government's not gonna have power. So he started switching all his music to binaural beats. He had 432 hertz on all of his music, so he was really trying to tell people how it actually works. And so I'll say he's the biggest one that comes to mind. Other philosophers, I mean, of course, you have people like Jordan Peterson who are big, and people from that camp, Sam Harris and Joe Rogan. That's probably one of the biggest philosophers for the masses. You don't want to think too much, but you want to understand. Well, listen to Joe. I mean, it's great. I love Lex Friedman. That's one of my favorite dudes. But yeah, I would say XXXTentacion, man. he was getting to the youth, man. These kids was listening to him. So yeah.
On that point, actually, do you ever think to yourself, if I put out too much truth at some point, it's risky? It's almost like there's like a certain level. If I go beyond that, now it's like I'm pushing against the settings that are currently there.
You have to have a big enough platform. You have to be loved by billions, millions before you know that happens to you. So if your platform gets big enough, I don't believe it could happen to me because I just got too much good energy. You know, my vibration just pushes all that away. I think with X used to do a lot of dark stuff. Like he came from a dark past. So I think that dark past kind of caught up with him. But in my case, you know, I don't really got a dark past, man. My record's clean, man. I ain't really, you know, I don't got no restraining orders on me. I'm child free. I ain't got no kids, no responsibilities. Nobody's mad at me. I pay my taxes, you know. So I'm not saying that X was not doing that thing, but I'm saying I don't have a dark past. I've been a civilized citizen this whole time. So when I do get to that level of stardom, you know, which will happen, and I start, you know, I mean, I'm already spreading the truth. So no, I don't think so, because my message has been keeping it 100 ever since. So I mean, I'm not telling too much of the truth. I put bits and pieces, you know what I mean. Jesus used to talk in parables because parables actually make people think. So I don't think I got a problem.
It's kind of like poetry or some way that it's more palpable.
Facts.
One point there is, I've thought about this before. Do you ever think that it'll be nice to get to a larger audience, because as you get to certain levels, you'll see people's truth of like one person who was jealous of you the whole time but didn't show up until you had this audience, and then another person that won't cause like a lawsuit or problem until you have this audience. Do you think about that?
No, I don't think about that at all. Like the way I like to look at life is like, you know, when the time comes, when it's time to cross that bridge, I'll cross that bridge. But right now, I'm focused on the now. Eckhart Tolle.
That was good. One time I did a little bit on of open mic, and I talked about how there's this other author who wrote The Power of Later, which is a procrastination book that hasn't come out yet. Good stuff there for the folks. Classics. The good thing about open mic is, or comedy is stuff that you remember it was your thing, so you still have that in the future. Anything you make in life, if it was you, it goes with you the whole way. If it wasn't you, it's kind of useless to do, because then at some point you have to discard it because it doesn't match you anyway. So the more you do that's related to yourself, the more efficient life will be. How much do you vary from your actual self in your expression?
I'm 102% with a 2% margin of error.
That is good stuff right there. Take away the 2 from the 102, and we're going to solid 100 right
Still
there.
got 100.
Full form. That's a good quality, okay? We need to be full form in this existence. What are the ways you take in media or like to take in things? Is it through video, audio, books, text? How do you like to get information?
Discourse. Just talking to people. Man. That's how I learn my info. Other than that, I like Reddit. You know, I go on Reddit and I'll listen to like philosophical speakers on YouTube. You know, Lex Friedman is a big one. It's kind of how I learned. But they got philosophical YouTube pages where, you know, they'll like draw out little animations while they describe philosophy. So I like to watch those too.
That's cool. Discourse. So talking with people, person to person, in person.
Yeah, that's my number one way of learning.
That's cool. Not layers behind or some technology which is more limiting. That's good. I talked to somebody actually a few days ago that they pointed out that a lot of their online discourse was completely limited in comparison to any sort of actual in-person connection they ever had. So it just can't compete. But maybe in the metaverse. What do you think about the great metaverse?
Oh, how do you, first, what's the frame of your metaverse that we're going on?
We are all in some sort of graphic on a screen, and we're in the room, and visually it looks like we're in the same room. That's as close as it gets.
I think that's one of the multitude of possibilities in the multiverse.
Tell us another one. Is there another one? What comes to mind?
Of possibilities?
Yes, for like a group interaction, but technology is involved, so you're not actually there. What thoughts come to mind? Is it a likable scenario?
I like to think that, it's more similar to the Matrix, some other more powerful beings created some beings, and those beings created some beings, and we're probably like the 11th beings of beings down the line. So sure, we have creators, but our creators have creators, and their creators have creators, and that actually might go to infinity and beyond. So I think it's a constant wormhole of creators creating creators. And right now, we're trying to create AI. We're creating robots. So we're now creating creators, and one day our robots will create things, and it's just passing it down. So I think that's actually the most possibility of possibilities to me of what the right answer is. So shouts out to all the creators, man. All the creators. Love you.
Creators make the world around us. I think I've mentioned that in some form. Without them, our world is very empty. And there's a lot of individuals that work and make the world functional, but then when it comes to the great things that bring us passion and joy, that's art and creators and writing. Things that you put your thoughts out there, and for somebody else, that's like the highlight of the week, to go see a certain play or see a performance or comedy, or, by the way, rap. Can you tell us some about rap, how long you've been rapping, and what you have put out?
Man, I've been rapping now for 22 years, so pretty much all my life. I just like it. It is meditation for me. Like whenever I'm really into a deep flow, that's me meditating. I'm not even here no more, Like kind of like if you've seen that one movie, what's it? Oh man, what's the new Disney movie where
I don't know.
You see everybody's souls? I think it's called Soul. Yeah, it's called Soul. Yeah, it's Soul when they're like, when anybody's in the zone, that doesn't mean that means their spirit flies off and it goes into a special place called the zone. So when I'm making music, man, I'm meditating, I'm in the zone, I'm feeling one with God, if you will. But yeah, that's why I rap. So it was never to get famous. It wasn't for anybody else. It was for me. So I make music for me, and other people happen to like it, and that's great. So yeah, that's how my music works.
All the golden things in life that we've ever seen, people did for themselves, and others got to enjoy it because it was like your internal world and you shared it. Every single good thing. Anytime there was a story of someone, they put some videos up on YouTube for friends just to share their thing, and then boom. But the minute you start focusing too much on what's the elements that need to be put out, now you're disregarding your own self. It can't be that good. Your passion's going to go away. Other people are going to feel it, because in truth, the passion and the joy of it was a good chunk of it. You toss that away once you start externalizing too much of what you're making. I also like freestyling and putting out some raps. So the similarities abound because our creativity, we cannot not put it out. That would be wrong. It would actually be bad. Let's say you told both of us, don't be creative for 5 years. That's terrible. That's one of the worst possible things. What are some, if you had to describe 3 words or lay out 3 words that describe yourself, what words would you pick?
Love, peace, joy.
These are straightforward right here. Love, peace, and joy. 3 letters long, 4 letters long, and 5 letters long. These are these toward people, or this is what you represent?
This is toward myself and other people. As above, so below, Yungcameltoe.
Lyricism can't be stopped right there. Now, I always like to throw in a little bit of variety. What is one question you have for me, Armin, the host?
All right, what's your life philosophy?
My life philosophy, I have multiple. If you look at my notes from the past 10 years on Evernote, there would be a lot of different ones that would seem to be there, but the biggest picture one is we are here for just a moment, and it's sad to not make use of that moment. That's it. When you use it properly or go with your direction, everything is great. It doesn't matter what happens. You can handle a tornado and a windstorm at the same time because you're going as you. The minute you toss away the moment and it's not relevant and you think there's going to be 40,000 more moments, then suddenly there's not 40,000 more moments. So immediately your attitude like cancels life. That's one of the main ones I put out there.
I rock with that. I rock with that.
Our moments are very important right there. That's a good one. But I want to describe a concept that I've thought about for a long time. We as people along the way, the people that show up in our path, it's like an automatic, you were supposed to, let's say you went and there was a river and you jumped from rock to rock to rock. The people on our path are those rocks, and it was supposed to be, they were on the river, and so not to meet them or not to interact with them would not have occurred. So every person that something great happens, it was your path, and that's great. The person that something negative happens, that's great too, you figured something out. Throwing that out there, what is one realization you have had in 2021 from some experience or in general?
Your vibe attracts your tribe. So whatever energy you put out is going to come right back to you. So if you love peace and joy, then what you're going to get is love, peace, and joy. And I just learned that from women, really. You know, if I had a heart of, ooh, I'm about to get them real good, then they had a heart of, ooh, I'm going to get them real good. If I came in a heart of, oh man, I hope you have a wonderful day. And she's like, man, top of the morning, top of the grand rising, what would you like to do today? And I'm just like, well, it's because the energy I was putting out. So that's the biggest lesson.
There's that reflection there, that mirroring, and you wouldn't know it unless you did it. If you kept putting out negative and they kept putting out negative, you could disregard what you were doing and assume that they were putting out negative, and that's just how they function. But then,
and there even came a moment where I was just like, you know what, let me experiment with sending out, like, you know, certain toxic individuals. You know, I'd be like, oh my God, it's a toxic, and people would be like, you should leave. Like, this is the toxic. And I'm like, no, let me ride in this toxicity just to see what it looks like. You know what I mean? Because you can learn from the bad too. You can learn from the good, you can learn from the bad. The bad often, you know, I mean, I don't say it's be bad. I'm just saying when you come across bad individuals in your path, you might be able to learn from them. I mean, don't do what they do, but there's some messages there that you can learn from. Remember that, okay?
This is a great point. It can be a harsh ping that really points you, versus if things go swell for too long, nothing's really pointing you in some direction. Those harsh hits, suddenly you're like, oh, okay, wait a minute, I shouldn't have interacted this way, or this concept I'm thinking, this doesn't apply. But you wouldn't get that sense until you have a little bit of anguish or something that hits you hard. That's a great point.
Oh, I mean, that's true too, but I was more saying, like, when certain individuals do things that's like, oh man, that's not good, but the way they go about it to get things done, it's like, wow, like, I didn't know I could do that. Now, I'm not going to do it in the wrong way, but you can go about it the right way, but you can learn about those ways from certain bad people. That's all I'm trying to say. Just so find out how they do things and take out the bad parts from the thing. You know, be a moral individual and just, you know, twist whatever they do to make it right. You know what I mean? But you can still learn.
See their strategy and how it gets to an end result, and then maybe adjust their strategy to get still to an end result.
Yeah, and be a good human being in the process.
That's a nice feature we are able to do.
Yeah.
When we feel like it.
We could rewrite the script.
We are the script, okay? We didn't even have a script, by the way, because we both are able to, but some individuals would script most things in existence, which is okay too. It's more planned and structured. Have you ever done any sort of like personality thing or like any of those like tests or?
No, I haven't done any.
It's kind of boxing, so maybe it makes sense. They put you in a little bit of a category.
Yeah.
The last thing I will check is, do you, what experiences or places that you have gone to have impacted you the most, whether it be locations or some memory that is very pivotal in getting you to where you are today?
A trip to Colombia, Colombian trip. Learned a lot on that trip. You know, ran into the cartel, made friends with the cartel. I was walking down the red light district of Medellin, Colombia. It's called Poblado. And I was asking all the prostitutes what their life philosophy was. And, you know, so word got around and the cartel ran up on me. It's like 13 of them. They all came from different sides. It was dark. It was like 1 a.m. You know what I mean? They all came gritted, face tats, everything. They all came out. They immediately took out their phones. They're like, hey, are you the guy who's been asking our woman their life philosophy? I was like, yeah. They're like, oh man, you are hilarious, man. Business has never been so good because now the women are over here laughing and saying, who's this weirdo asking our life philosophy? And then like they're having fun now, you know, and the clients like it because they're like, oh, well now the women are having a good time and like, man, you good for business. You got the hood pass. They took out their phones and they're like, man, we can't even go back to America. Look at all of our crimes. We're on the most winning list of every state. And they just started pulling up their rap sheets. And I was like, man, these is real killers. Like 13 of them. And they was all giving me hugs, man. So I would say that was a big life lesson. Like, man, hey, be cool always. I mean, I always knew to be cool, but it's like, hey, man, stay positive, even if a situation looked like it could go south. So that was a big lesson. I lived in Germany for 1.5 years. I went to study abroad, but actually I was studying broads, you know what I mean? And I didn't go to none of my classes, man. I didn't go to none of my German classes. I didn't go to nothing. I just was hanging out with women, and that's how I learned it. Like, I would go to class and take the test, but my German was so good from just, you know, having, you know, going on dates with women and only speaking German, that I passed with flying colors. So I ended up getting a job. Like, I did 1 year of schooling out there, and then I got non-schooling, really. I did 1 year of studying broads in Germany. And then 6 months after, or for the next 6 months, I ended up getting a girlfriend. I moved in with her, and she got me a job. I didn't even interview. I literally came home one day, and she's like, I got you a job. I was like, you got me an interview? She's like, no, I got you a job. You start on Monday. I was like, what? I walked into the office. They're like, hey, nice to meet you. Nice to have you. I'm like, bro, you didn't interview me. This is crazy. So yeah, I'll say Germany. Thailand was crazy. I'm just gonna say that. Thailand was crazy. My parents took me to Egypt when I was 15. So I got to see where Jesus used to go. They took me to the pyramids, and so that was cool. Learned a lot on that trip. That's what actually got me into thinking about, like, oh man, yeah, my parents kind of messed up because I was like, man, maybe, you know, the Christian religion is the way. Then I went out to Egypt, and they're like, well, we believe in Allah, and they believe in Buddha. And I'm like, well, Buddha and Allah? They're like, yeah, there's different religions, man. It's not just Christian. I'm like, oh, really? And like, oh, and then the Egyptians, they believed in Horus and Ra. And I was like, wait, hold on, Horus and Ra? So I started looking into other religions, and I'm like, wait, hold up, skirt. You know what I mean? And so I asked my parents, like, hey, who are these other guys? They're like, oh, no, don't look into that, man. I'm like, man, anytime my parents did that, I immediately looked at it and then, you know, found my own way.
I like the examples of people guiding you at places versus some text or some example, because people have the experiences. They can get you straight to a job or understanding or language. They are that versus a third party. Skipping that is a great way to go. What a variety of locations there. That's pretty cool. Shout outs to Emanuelle, who has a variety of traits that I would see as in short supply in public, so they are important to the public, because if you just go by supply and demand, that's one thing, but two, you need the networking mind to connect the concept or to try things. Some individuals will, let's say, do 10% of the trying of things that he or I will do, or the 10% of the connecting concepts that we'll do. And so if you give them another 15 years, not so much will show up in these categories. But those who do have that ability, boy, it's very important for the public. So I want to put that out there. Emanuelle, I would like to thank you for having joined on this episode number 321 of the Armin Show podcast and sharing information with all of us.
Man, thanks for having me. Hope you're having a wonderful day, man. We live in the best of all possible worlds. This is just another day in paradise. I am Yungcameltoe. That's Y-U-N-G, camel toe. Don't put an O or the feds will be at your door. That's what I always like to say. As above, so below, Yungcameltoe. I love the fact that you exist at the same time I exist, man. We gonna get through this, man. We will prosper, man. We on the up and up, like some uppercuts. You know what I mean? We just uppercuts, man. We just, you know, level up. You know, Mario Toad. You know, we in their corner. You know what I mean? We in their corner.
It's a great message. Optimism, forward movement, and we are out.